Hello everybody, here we are today talking about why some teams should go out there and possibly try to acquire Patrik Laine and what are some teams that could be interested in trying to trade for him. So before we get started with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So the 2016 second overall pick, Patrik Laine, has requested a trade from Columbus and is looking to play on a third team in his career. And this comes after playing a scattered 4 seasons with the Columbus Blue Jackets, as he's been in and out of the lineup. In that time, the Jackets have failed to make the playoffs in any of those seasons, and I do think that it's probably best for both sides to get a fresh start with Laine being shipped off somewhere. So the question then becomes, why should some teams trade for him? Well, the first reason is that he can still score goals. He scored 54 over the past 3 seasons, which might not seem like much because, again, that's not even a 20-goal pace over the course of a full 82-game season. But if you're looking at what we've seen in the past 3 years, he's only played 129 games, meaning that he's been at a 34-goal pace in that run. Any team that's able to get a goal scorer that can get over 30 goals in a season would likely want to have that player. And on top of that too, he's currently been playing with line mates that might not be as good as what he could get if another team was able to go out there and try to acquire him, as he's played with Boone Jenner, Jack Roslovic, to name a few. And we are well aware that teams that are going out there to try to acquire him are probably going to be sides that are better offensively, better suited to be competitive, and could have more depth. So I would argue that while he's scoring goals at a high rate for the Blue Jackets, he could be even better with a new team. And before we get to the next point, I do want to say that that is no shade towards Boone Jenner or Jack Roslovic, as I know that they are currently in the NHL, but I do feel like there are better players, obviously, in the league. Anyway, on to the second point, and I feel like this is the potential for him to be a spark for a team. While Laine in recent years may not have lived up to what we saw in the early parts of his career, as he has struggled with, dry spells and being in and out of the lineup, he is somebody that could provide a spark, and potentially to one team especially that we'll talk about later in this video, as this team in recent years has tried to make a lot of moves to get better and get back into the playoffs. They've not been able to do so in the past few years and need a little bit of something to get going. And with Laine, like we talked about, those teams that are going to go out there and try to get him are probably going to be teams that are trying to do something besides just, making the playoffs. They want to go on a run, and by getting him would provide a boost to the top 6 and maybe even to the top line. And the third reason is that if things go well, he is under contract not only through this upcoming season, but the season after that. So you are seeing potentially a 30-plus goal scorer for you jump into the lineup with better line mates and just in a better place mentally to try to go out there and have a bounce back year, and then also have another season where he would get to build more chemistry with his team and give you a little bit more time to work out a deal if things are going well in year 1, where he could be able to sign a mid-term, short-term, or even long-term deal. And that is really something that I feel like is valuable for both sides in Columbus and for whoever goes out there and gets him, because Columbus might be able to get more in the return, knowing that they could say, hey, you're getting 2 years of Laine who could go out there to be a great player for you, whereas that other team could have 2 runs in the playoffs where he's able to help them out. Now, we know a lot of this is narrative talk, talking about a guy that's been a little bit down and out in recent years and coming back and being able to go to what he was before. But the real thing that we're looking at here is the potential for him to do that. And I think that the winner of this will probably be whoever acquires Laine, because I still see so much potential in him. And I do see a player that is ready to just get back out on the ice and say, I am a deep threat, or I am a good threat in the league, to be one of those names you fear, especially when you've got the puck on your stick in the case of Laine. So while we will probably say that some of this is hypothetical, there is a reality where Laine is going to be a 40-plus goal scorer again, and I do want to emphasize that because, again, people seem to be giving up on him. Now, as for some teams that could be interested in him, it seems like we're all kind of thinking the same thing, at least from what I thought originally and a lot of the articles I'm reading. The Pittsburgh Penguins feel like a team that could go out there and try to acquire him. Pittsburgh's not been shy about trying to get things right for their roster. They went out and got Erik Karlsson. They've made a lot of moves, just moved a lot of guys around, try to figure out what works. And unfortunately, over the past 2 years for Pens fans, nothing really has worked at the moment as they failed to make the playoffs. But by getting Laine, like we've already talked about, a player with potential, a player that makes a statement by saying we are getting a guy of this caliber and we want to try to do things, while also getting more help for that veteran group, those forwards especially, that are getting you a lot of those goals. You get a guy that is still relatively young, that has the potential to grow in his game. And I know some people say, oh, well, we might not see Columbus want to trade him within the division. But I think we're looking in a world where Columbus is thinking more about the return. They could probably care less about if Laine is out there lighting them up like a Christmas tree if he's with Pittsburgh, because even if he had a 50-goal season next year, the Jackets probably aren't making the playoffs. Now, as for some other teams, I'm going to be honest, it's all up in the air at the moment, as Pittsburgh did feel like one that I was really thinking, oh, this could be the case, whereas the other ones seem to be across the board. Carolina Hurricanes have been mentioned, the Colorado Avalanche, we'll talk about that in a minute. The Montreal Canadiens, that one's really enticing too. Vegas Golden Knights, and even the Washington Capitals. So in looking at all this, Colorado was appealing to me because I read an article on The Score talking about how the Avs could play around with a little bit of money with Nichushkin and with, of course, Landeskog, depending on how things will play out with LTIR. And by getting Laine, that would just be absolutely lethal. And you know that if they were able to successfully play around with LTIR and then things played out for them in their benefit, especially come playoff time, a lot of people would be hating on the Avalanche. But I do think, too, a team that I would love to see him go to, even if the results weren't there right away, would be the Montreal Canadiens. This is a big market team that is trying to get back into the fray in terms of the playoff conversation. We all don't really expect them to be there this year, and even with Laine, there is no guarantee outright that they could go out there and do it. But there's something about this organization that I've talked about before. Their brand looks good. Whether or not I think the logo is good, which I don't think it is, it's historic. The jerseys look good. The environment's good. They are an organization that has won the most Stanley Cups in NHL history. And by getting Laine, that would be a testament to their fans saying, yeah, we are trying to get back into the fold. And I would just be thrilled with that. As for some other teams, Vegas, I'm not so sure about that. Washington is very appealing to me because they were very, very busy trying to, be better in the offseason, and that's something they were able to do. Would they go out there and make this move after making so many? At this point, I'd say anything is up in the air for them, as they could try to say, yeah, let's go out and make one more deal. But in the end, they'll just say we'll have to go out there and see, as I do think, like I've already said, him going to the Habs would be the most exciting in terms of the coverage and just the hype. But I think the reality is just going to be whether or not the Jackets feel comfortable with the return. And it's probably going to come down to who can give them the most. And also you have to realize too, while people are talking about, oh, we're going to be acquiring Laine, you're going to be giving up assets. You're going to have to work around cap and all of those things. Possibly some of these teams are out of the running simply because of the cap. And while we talk about him getting there, you have to do addition by subtraction. You could be losing depth. We all have to understand that. And some of these teams might not be in a great spot with prospects and with the cap in general. So then you do wonder a little bit about what they could give up to get him. So anyway, what are your thoughts on the whole Patrik Laine deal? It does seem like he's probably going to be out. I do expect him maybe to play some games with the Jackets this year as they try to find a suitor. But let me know who you think that suitor will be. Let me know what you think is a fair deal for both sides. Anyway, let me know down below in the comments. All that stuff down below. Please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night, and you go love hockey, alright. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.